So today we'll be talking about part 1 in the IELTS test. We'll discuss my example of the question, and then I'll tell you exactly what I've done and in what way, so you can actually apply it on the day of your exam. Remember, this is not about memorizing, but about getting the main gist of what to do in each part, in this case part 1. So I hope this is useful for you. Let's dive in. Part 1 in the IELTS speaking test is basically to break the ice with the examiner. You can be 100% honest or maybe not. I mean, if the answer is no, then just say it. Just say, to be honest, I don't like this, or to be honest, I don't have any hobbies. As long as you fully develop it with some explanations or examples, it's fair enough. So remember, part 1 is just to introduce yourself to the examiner so he can know more or less what your level might be. So the real thing here is to get off to a flying start by using simple ideas, something that you can fully explain yourself, and being chill and natural while answering the questions. So the possible topics that they could ask you about is just your everyday life. So your work, your studies, if you have any hobbies, TV, entertainment, transport, environment, the use of internet or technologies in your everyday life, your country, your town, about learning English. And remember, you can tell the truth or maybe not, as long as you develop it into 2-3 sentences is more than enough. You shouldn't be too short or too long. We need to strike a balance. If you are too short, you wouldn't make a good impression on the examiner because he or they wouldn't have enough information to evaluate you, to assess you. So as I said, you can give your opinion or give your answer and then support your ideas with explanations or 1-2 examples. That's it. You shouldn't enumerate like 3, 4, 5 different examples here with explaining 1 or 2 or showing 1 or 2 examples. It's enough. Remember not to give a memorized answer. So remember that the key point here is to give a very natural and flexible answer based on what you believe. That's it. So as we mentioned, remember that these are personal questions and you should just give personal answers that may be true, maybe not, or maybe it could be a mix between both realities. Maybe you have like a real foundation, a true foundation, but your explanation or your example, it may be invented, it may be made up. Do not worry about it, that's fine. Nobody will know what is true or not. The only thing they are going to evaluate is your English. So be careful with memorizing answers. You should learn vocabulary, definitely, and you should memorize words or synonyms, but you should never memorize full answers. That's very detrimental to your score. So remember to strike a balance between not too short and not too long. So in that case, you should give explanations and examples that help you support your view, and remember not to enumerate 1,000 examples. With 1 or 2, it's more than enough. And not too long. If you give a very long answer to a very simple question, it is going to sound very unnatural and it looks like a memorized answer. So between 2-3 sentences is fair enough. The first thing you should do is answer the question directly, and then you can explain yourself and give an example. That's all about 2-3 sentences in total. So let's go for these sample questions on my answer, but remember you should bear in mind the different aspects such as fluency and coherence. So remember the thing about connectors and the register to boost your lexical resource. Grammar range and accuracy, so remember about not making mistakes and using complex structures like conditionals, relative clauses, who, which, and such. And finally, but the most crucial from my point of view, is the pronunciation. So remember to focus your attention on your intonation up and down to make your speech flow in a natural way. Clearly and successfully pronounce the words so the examiner can understand you and avoid misunderstandings. And last but not least, connective speech. So do not separate and isolate the pronunciation of all the syllables and all the words. In English, we don't do that. So by using contractions, by using connective speech, putting things together, mashing them together, you will improve your fluency score. Do you like going to parties? Well, I love dressing up and attending numerous events regularly because you can meet interesting people. It's a real treat to keep amusing conversations as well as building up new relationships. Paraphrasing the question, I'm not using like, I'm using love. Then I'm giving specific answer. I love dressing up. I love wearing fancy clothes to parties. And instead of using parties, I'm saying events in general. Then I'm explaining myself by using the linking words, cause, as well as. I'm using phrasal verbs to boost my lexical resource. Remember, phrasal verbs, idioms, collocations, idiomatic phrases or expressions, synonyms to boost my fluency, contractions, and I'm giving very specific explanations, right? It's a real treat, it's a real pleasure. So very nice idiomatic expression, collocations, meet people or build up relationships. And I'm using quite a lot of adjectives. I'm using new, interesting. In all the IELTS speaking tests, you should aim for description and use of adjectives whenever possible. Okay, so let's summarize the main points for part 1, but actually this could be applicable to all parts, especially part 3 as well, because it's about questions. So that would help you put into practice the assessment criteria. So what you need to do in practice to get higher bands is to understand the main aspects of the assessment criteria and then take it with you in your performance. So you should give natural replies, neither too long, not too short. 2-3 sentences is more than enough, with explanations and examples. Remember, examples should be 1 or 2 maximum so you can fully develop them. Enumeration will reduce your score drastically. So remember that for speaking test, especially in part 1, the examiner needs to know you. This is kind of like your introductory card, so try not to give one word. You need to fully develop your ideas here. So you need to practice vocabulary, use expressions. You can memorize them as well by learning and repeating them. You're memorizing them. But remember what we said earlier, do not memorize full answers. That will make you lose points on the day of the exam. Alright guys, so that's it. I hope you find this useful and I'll see you soon. Bye bye!